Rivals brought to you by Utah Ice Centers has arrived, and of course, we are going to a little incident that's happened all too frequent in the NFL.
Yeah.
It just happened again with the Dallas Cowboys. An issue of domestic violence supposedly happening with, a player and a partner or spouse.
Irving girlfriend. One version was, dragged out on the street by her hair or front yard or whatever, and neighbors call and police come, and she accused him of abuse, but then recanted the story. And
so is this? It just feels like this happens too much in our sport.
Yeah.
And is it because of the sport? I mean, why is this happening? Or is it any different than normal society? Are the statistics higher, or is it just brought to the attention because it's a public, high-profile situation that gets on the news? It goes out everywhere. What's going on?
I think the statistical numbers out there are that there's no difference between the NFL and the general public, as far as crime and other things. Now, I think it's the magnifying glass is definitely over the pro athlete, and the cameras are on it, and you're going to see more of it. And there's higher expectations, right? You're a professional athlete. You're your example to society and our culture and the youth, the young boys and girls out there, and then when they fall hard. But I was in the locker room as you were, and I was transported there from small town farm boy, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, we're mixed in with guys from all over the United States, inner city guys. They come from areas that drugs and harsh lives, and everybody brings in their experience with them in that crazy locker room in the NFL. And you see these guys that don't have that control from turning that switch on and off that you have to learn how to do as a professional athlete, because you compete at the highest level. I walk in that locker room, and you're in the NFL, and there's no more extreme place than that. And you got to be able to face down your opponent or your rival and say, I'm going to kick your A. I mean, it's that simple. I'm going to kick your A, or you're going to kick mine.
So there's a culture.
And you got to be able to turn that switch off, right?
Yeah. There's a culture that definitely plays into it, but also understanding there's also a time and a place for that kind of behavior.
Yeah.
Because the football field is a good place to get out some of that aggression. I think what's happened recently, which I think is a good thing, is a lot of this has been brought to light. I know with an incident with Ray Rice in an elevator where you actually saw what happens, because most of the time you don't see. Whoa. And you really start to get a much greater understanding of how terrible this actually is. There's the Me Too movement. There's a lot of awareness that is coming out about this issue, because it's hard to really understand it, and a lot of it is so secret. I mean, I was interviewed by O.J. Simpson. Probably it was 2 days after a domestic violence phone call was reported by his wife.
Yeah.
And I would have never known that. Here I was just like, this is O.J. Simpson. This is cool that he's interviewing me.
Right.
But so the issue has kind of been under the radar. It's been a very secret kind of situation that we're not aware of. So a lot of awareness is coming to it, but it's still happening. There's still the issue. So maybe part of it is about the culture of the NFL and the violence of the game. You look at guys who are in the military, and some of those guys can't handle coming back to regular life. They're used to the violence of shooting a gun and
war
and the killing of human beings. And some guys have a hard time drawing that line, and you've used the word critical thinking.
Critical thinking.
About how to say, okay,
defensive linemen are the masters of critical thinking, by the way.
And you have to stop and say, wait a minute, this is okay on a football field, but it's not okay in my house, even if I'm really mad. I
know we get really in depth in this on our audio version of the podcast, and it is. You got to learn how to compartmentalize. And I think the guys that came from great schools, and great coaches, they taught you how to compartmentalize. There's this time where you flip on a switch and you go to war. And then there's a time where you go to class if you're in college, and you're a great student, and you conduct yourself like a gentleman and a professional. And there's a time where you go to business, and there's a time where you go home to your family. And you don't bring that work and that harshness of, especially the NFL and the violence, into your home, which is sacred. You grow up learning to discipline yourself and have that control where you can compartmentalize and turn those switches on, where I've got the father switch and I've got my business switch, and school switch, and I've got my warrior switch, and it turns on and off. Your warrior switch.
Well, and you
can't solve every problem with a right hook.
But you but you get into a relationship, right? And you're together all the time, and you see the best and the worst of one another, and there are conversations or there are arguments, and they continue to escalate because you know how to push one another's button, and you want to, especially. Women are good at like getting under your skin. They're
much better at the emotional swords.
100%.
With the emotional swords.
And really, the best solution is because things escalate. They just do. They escalate even in the best of homes. And the best thing to do is to walk away.
Walk away.
You just got to walk away. And for those wives, they got to let the guy walk away.
Yes.
Just say, you know what? The continuation of all of this is not going to have a positive outcome. It's going to continue to get nuclear, and it's going to get to a boiling point, and it's going to explode. It's so
funny you
walk away.
You talked about that.
Walk away. I'm telling you,
early in our marriage,
let it calm down.
I've been married 35 years, and early in our marriage, I would start to get all hot, in one of those little petty arguments that you look back on and go, how silly was that? But I'd get hot, I'd start to walk away, right? I'd be like, okay, I got to go for a walk, and I got to cool down. I knew where I was at. And my little wife Roxy, man, she'd follow right behind me, just she wasn't gonna let go of that, right?
Don't walk away from me.
Don't walk away from me.
We're gonna talk this out.
We're
gonna
follow
work
me from room to room and follow me out the door and just be on me. And she finally learned, let me just go cool down for a while, especially when I was younger, and then I'll come back, right? And we'll talk it out. But I knew when I'd reached my limit and I had to walk out.
Yeah, it's
just funny in my own relationship, but I made it work, right? We've been married 30 years and have 7 grandchildren, but you've got to know how to turn that switch off and have that personal control of I am the warrior, and I cannot always solve my problems as a football player in that warrior mode in all my other areas of my life. I got to be able to turn that off and now be dad and a husband, and I'm not going to be able to solve everything like Ray Rice. Right. And yes,
iron hand, the iron fist is not the solution.
She was slapping him and getting after him, and all that, and on him. But there's still, you can never justify, breaking out that.
Look, there's a physical discrepancy. I mean, the damage that can come from this is just the physical damage, aside from the emotional and psychological damage of this.
You're one of the top athletes in the world, right? You've trained to be this juggernaut of muscle and speed and reaction, and you're at the top of your game in the world, and you unleash that on anybody, let alone a petite woman, and
just physically can't handle it.
You're a man. I mean, I thought about that oftentimes in the locker room with us when we get in those fights, and there's football fights and then there's fights, right? And you'd think, oh my gosh, you realize how much power and strength we all had when men like us got after it. It's lethal.
It's like you can kill someone.
Yeah, you connect guys, even big men like us going after each other. You connect, right? Men die from blows, right? Because you're just so strong. Yeah.
All right, folks.
Scary.
Just walk away.
Just walk away.
Rivals has arrived, and we're going to walk away now. But you can text Rivals to 65537. Go to all those social sites and like us. And if you're smart, we know you are. We know that you're smart.
Yeah.
Dial us in on your smartphone. This episode of Rivals is now over.
And we're off to our corners.
I am not him, Jason Buck.
And I'm not Scott.
But we are related. We'll catch you soon.